Warzone Duos is one of the most fast-paced and intense modes that this Battle Royale has to offer. It's just you and your partner, battling it out against 74 other teams for that all-important win. If you want to wipe out enemies, win gunfights and rack up a high kill count, you've got to work together as an effective killing machine. You need to know the best tactics that will set you up for success in engagements, how you can create an advantage for yourself in any situation, and which strategy will give you the best chance of success overall. That's exactly why I'm making this guide, to show you how to pick up more kills in Call of Duty Warzone Duos. I'll be covering the tactics and strategies that I use to maximise my kill count in each game, different methods of winning gunfights, as well as plenty of general tips and tricks that will help you get an advantage over your enemies. There are going to be plenty of in-depth points as well as a few smaller ones, so timestamps are in the description for each section of this video. The first thing that I want to talk about is possibly the most important principle in Warzone Duos. This underpins almost every other rule, theme, piece of advice and anything else that applies to this mode. This is, of course, the rule of drop one, push one. Before I show you how to apply this tactic, I want to explain exactly why it works and what makes it so powerful. If you can master this skill, you may well find that wiping out teams and dropping enemies becomes far easier. This all has to do with the fact that Warzone Duos places an incredible amount of importance on an individual player's life. If your teammate is down, you are at an enormous disadvantage. If they don't have a self-revive, then you've got a very difficult situation on your hands. You effectively have two options. 1. Risk going for the revive. This might save your teammate, but most likely it'll just get you killed. You're going to be left with nobody to defend you, which makes you a very easy target. Even if you do get your teammate up, chances are the enemies will be right around the corner, and that's the end of you. Option 2. Win a 2 versus 1. This is definitely possible, but it's not an easy thing to accomplish. You'll have to outposition and outdamage 2 enemies, who will have double your firepower and health. You also have to deal with the fact that you only have a limited amount of time before your teammate expires. Neither of these two options is ideal, and they demonstrate quite simply why having a down teammate is such a big problem in duos. In larger team modes, like trios or quads, this problem doesn't exist to the same degree. Even if a player is down, you can have one teammate revive, whilst at least one other provides gunfire and support. This just isn't possible in duos, which is why getting downed is so devastating to a team. And all of this is exactly why this is something that you should exploit. When you down an enemy player, you create an incredible amount of pressure on the surviving enemy. They're suddenly at a huge disadvantage, as they've got to make a quick and difficult decision about what they want to do. This is where the tactic of downing one then pushing one really comes into play. As soon as you know that you've downed an enemy, you want to push hard and fast. The reason for this is because you've created a little time window in which you have a period of massive opportunity. Whilst an enemy team member is down, you've got the advantage. You can push from multiple angles with double the weapons, tactical grenades, explosives and everything else. Plus, you'll be dealing with a psychologically rattled and most likely scared enemy. I promise you that there is nothing more intimidating than first losing your only teammate before realising that a full enemy team is charging right at you. You'll most likely catch that enemy panicked and off guard. If you're working as a team, they won't have a chance of dropping you both on their own. What's so great about this tactic is that you can apply it to nearly every single engagement that you could possibly find yourself in. Provided you can communicate clearly, there's countless different ways to create this incredible advantage. Let me give you a few different examples of how you can apply this. 1. Only focus on half of the duo initially. If you and your partner can both see an enemy player and know his teammate is nearby, then you can both focus your gunfire on the same enemy. Instead of spreading out your damage and potentially weakening both players, concentrate that damage on one singular target so that you can down them. By just doing this, you create a much bigger advantage than just breaking some plates on each enemy. 2. Force a duo to separate in order to create vulnerability. If you're tackling a team who aren't in the same building or who aren't right beside each other, then separating them can be a great strategy. By using explosives, tacticals and normal gunfire, you can create distance between your targets. Then, when they're separated, you can exploit their newly weakened position to down one player and create this advantage. 3. If the team you want to tackle isn't close by or is holding you at a distance from cover, you can try to down one player and using the window of opportunity this creates to close the distance between you and them. Use the revive time to make your rotation to a stronger spot. Then, you can reapproach the gunfight and press your advantage. The basic principle of downing one and then pushing the remaining teammate really is the foundation of aggressive duos gameplay. You can apply this tactic to just about any gunfight, and it's often all you need to wipe out an enemy team. The versatility of this strategy is really what makes it so powerful. There are countless different situations in which you can apply it, and many different ways of doing so. What's key is that you know how to adapt and apply this principle in whichever situation you currently find yourself in. I do want to quickly point out that a self-revive can occasionally provide a counter to this strategy. If you down a player, always assume that they do have a self-revive. If you don't, you may find yourself surprised as you're suddenly facing 2 enemies again instead of just 1. Just because that player doesn't have armour doesn't mean that they aren't a threat. All it takes is a lucky C4 and you and your partner may well find yourselves on the way to the gulag. Be prepared to deal with every player for a second time. This is especially true the further through the match you get, as self-revives are definitely more common in later rings. What if you can't easily apply this strategy though? What if you're in a difficult position where your enemies have a clear advantage over you? Maybe they have the high ground, or you're stuck out in the open. In situations like this, sometimes splitting up can be your best option. Now I would only recommend this strategy to players who are confident in their own individual gun skill. Splitting is a high risk, high reward tactic. It will allow you to engage a team from 2 completely different directions or angles, which can be great for applying pressure and forcing enemies to move out of cover. This can be especially beneficial in the later rings when cover is more sparse. If you attack as 2 individual players, you'll create more confusion and will most likely surprise your enemies in the process. Nearly everybody expects duos to attack as a pair, from the same direction and from the same cover, whereas with this approach you're doing the exact opposite, so often enemies simply aren't prepared for it. However, if one of you is downed or is killed, that's pretty much game over for you. The increased distance between you will make pulling off a revive near impossible, so you should be prepared for this risk before you decide to split up. If you can do it right though, this can be a great tactic for displacing enemies who are in strong positions, or for surprising players who already know your location. Another way of dealing with difficult teams, as well as pretty much any team that's at close to medium range, is to use tactical grenades. This is where Restock comes in, and it's a perk that I think has a lot of potential for aggressive players. It does mean that you have to sacrifice Ghost, but you gain a lot of aggressive power when you do so. When combined with stun grenades or flashbangs, this perk can be incredibly powerful. The great thing about tactical grenades is that they can be used in almost all situations. If you're pushing a team, a well-placed stun can render an enemy immobile and defenceless. On the flip side, if you're being pushed yourself, hurling a flashbang in self-defense can buy you valuable time to escape or counter-attack. Thanks to Restock, you don't have to worry about conserving any of your equipment. Every 25 seconds, you'll recover both the tactical and the lethal. This enables you to use equipment more frequently, such as to clear buildings or to check rooms. Another upside is that the regeneration of lethals guarantees you maximum firepower in every gunfight. You never need to worry about running out, you just need to be mindful of the 25-second recharge time. These benefits do come at the cost of having no ghost though. The lack of stealth does mean that you may well find yourself being targeted by more enemy players than normal. If you're hunting for more kills per game though, this shouldn't really be a problem. A smaller point that I want to cover, but one that is still very important, is to spend your money and to use your utilities. I see a lot of players act incredibly cautiously with their cash and kill streaks. People will save their purchases until they see what they consider to be the perfect scenario in which they can use them. They'll carry a cluster strike throughout the entire game just because they think it might give them an advantage in a specific situation. The big problem with this is that specific situation might never come. If you're too cautious with your kill streaks, that can do more harm than good. If you want more kills, saving your cash and kit for a rainy day is not going to help you. You shouldn't be afraid to spend your cash and make the most out of what buy stations have to offer. UAVs can be great for leading you to enemy teams, which is exactly what you want when you're chasing a high kill count. Cluster strikes and airstrikes can offer you valuable pressure and force enemies to move from cover. These are all things that you should be freely using to your advantage. I'm not saying to just throw kill streaks around wildly, but you shouldn't be afraid to use them. There's nothing worse than saving everything for the perfect moment if you die before you can use it at all. If increasing your kills is your main focus, then make sure you use everything that's available in order to help you achieve that. Remember, the more kills you get, the more money you're going to have, so it can be very easy to repeatedly resupply yourself with expensive items. I hope that this video has helped you, and that by using the tips, tricks and guidance provided in this video, you'll be able to increase your kill count in Warzone Duos. Remember that this is just a guide, and that you should feel free to adapt the advice I've given you to suit your own individual strengths and weaknesses.